and welcome to the Tour Report from Secret Golf. Well, this week, after another Jon Rahm victory to wrap up the West Coast swing, the PGA Tour moves to my home state of Florida, and we're kicking things off with the Honda Classic. Elk, before we even get into that, Jon Rahm winning 5 of his last 9 worldwide starts. I mean, it's like we have a kind of Tiger-esque era from the Spaniard right now.
Yeah, and I wanted to pick him every week on the West Coast, and I couldn't do it, and I wanted to. And, when we talked about Riviera last week, we discussed on the show how much it favors a fade. And I was thinking about the TV yesterday, watching Max Homa, Colin Morikawa, and Jon Rahm coming down the stretch, all three hitting the power fade every single hole. And they were all getting a little tangled up on hole 5 and 13, which the same thing happened to me back in the day. So very fade-oriented course, and that's the way it shook out. We didn't see the likes of Rory McIlroy or Tiger Woods showing up, although Tiger was hitting the power fade. It was nice to see him play 72 holes on a tournament that he's representing, the Genesis, and his foundation. Was fabulous to see him out there in his red on Sunday, Diane, big crowd. But no stopping what is the force of Jon Rahm. I've told you on this very show that it means so much to him. He always thinks he's hitting great shots, even when he isn't. He appears as though he thinks they should have been, and he has this tremendous killer attitude, and you can see it when you watch him. He's easy to pull for because he tries so hard. He's working so hard. Also easy to pull for Max Homa, but in the end, he's just too much right now.
He's, my husband and I were talking about it, and just exactly what you said there, why it's so easy to root for Rahm. And he's just got this fiery attitude. He cares so much. So when he does hit a bad shot or miss a putt, you see it. He's seething, he's mad. And it's this confidence that he's got in his game. And he's been talking a long time, this year really, in response to all the hoo-ha over the official world golf rankings and whether or not Liv are going to get points and why the rankings didn't seem very accurate of the players, at present. And he had said he didn't need to be world number 1 to validate his game. He knew he was the best player in the world, and now he is the official number 1. It's incredible. It's actually amazing to watch. We've had the last 2 events being these elevated events, and the leaderboards on Sunday have been the creme de la creme. We've seen the best names there. Unbelievable. Yeah,
and it's so evident, at least to me, and I know with you because I've told you so much about this, that when you watch these guys play on the West Coast, it's so evident to see guys like Max Homa, how superior they putt on Poana greens. I mean, knocking in these 5 and 6 footers for him is just nothing compared to a lot of guys. There'll be a lot of guys on that tour, Diane, that were so happy to finally take a plane to go to the East, because now everything's changed. Now we're off the Californian grass and we're back onto the Bermuda grass, which is a whole different set of circumstances. A lot of players, including me, Diane, even though I had some success on the West Coast, could not wait to get out of California and get over to some flatter, firmer, no spongy, predictable, readable greens on the East Coast.
Well, it's good for me that you've said that, because I've really taken the Bermuda grass into consideration this week with my picks. And I've really been looking at guys that have performed well on Bermuda, because, yeah, as you say, there's going to be a huge crew of them that are like, okay, we're heading over to Florida now. Honda Classic really has got the bad draw when it comes to scheduling on the PGA Tour. Maybe when you look at the schedule, they have the worst draw, because we've just had these 2 elevated events in the WM Phoenix Open and the Genesis. We've got the Honda now. We've got the Arnold Palmer Invitational at Bay Hill next week. Huge event. Then the Players, huge event. So this is the one that the guys are skipping. Highest ranked players in the world. We've got Sung J M, who's won this tournament before, Billy Horschel, Shane Lowry. So yeah, the Honda has taken a hit.
It's a shame for the Honda. Jack and Barbara Nicklaus are the unofficial hosts of this tournament, of course, for their hospital charity, children's charity down there. Jack Nicklaus can't really go on the recruiting trail too heavy for Honda, Diane, because he wants all the guys to come up and play at the Memorial Tournament in Ohio at his tournament, which is also elevated. I did talk to some of the players on the tour in this off week, and they're very frustrated, the guys that are outside of elevated status, and the tour doesn't know where they're going to cut off or how they're going to cut it off. They're very frustrated, not happy at all. There's a lot of grumbling on the tour right now about these elevated, not elevated, and how you get in them and how you don't, so to speak.
Well, Thomas Pieters was on Twitter last week saying he's number 34 in the world and he couldn't get a spot in the Genesis Invitational, even though he loves Riviera. And then, over the weekend, rumours that he's going to go to Live that are more or less confirmed, along with Brendan Steele and Danny Lee. So, yeah, the elevated events, I don't know, as a golf fan, watching Scotty Scheffler win, John Ram win, these big names in contention on Sunday, it's exciting, and it really has felt huge the last 2 weeks. So for the golf fan, I love the elevated events, and I think they're going to be great. However, as we said, the Honda has suffered. The Valspar comes after the Players and before the match play. So it's suffering as well. But I love these kind of weeks. I look forward to this week because we've talked about it before. It's an opportunity week, and it's the chance for us to look at other players on the PGA Tour who could really step up.
Yeah, and, the evolution of the elevated events probably came from Live, and this very week, Diane, Live starts its schedule, and they're occupying a piece of real estate that used to sit on the PGA Tour schedule at Mayakoba in Mexico. They'll be opening up. It will be undoubtedly a higher marquee names playing at Live than will be at the Honda Classic this week. So they'll go head-to-head. Live now has a TV deal on CW. By the way, everyone said there's nothing on the CW channel. My favorite show is on the CW channel, and that is Whose Line Is It Anyway? I don't know if you know it. But anyway, I'm looking forward to both, but I'm really interested in how we're going to handicap this one this week at the PGA National, because this golf course, Diane, maybe all these guys are skipping it because the course is so difficult. A golf course, bear trap with the last 4 holes, water everywhere. The weather's going to be pretty good and not too windy. So we have a lot of things we have to take into consideration.
Yeah, okay, right. Well, let's talk about the course, PGA National. I'm hopefully going to go down for the weekend. Fingers crossed certain Knox makes the cut. And if so, then we're going to...
He almost always does. I was checking his stats.
Not the last 2 weeks, but this...
at this tournament. Yeah.
He likes this tournament. And hopefully we're going to take Grayson to his first golf tournament, which would be very exciting. So, I would love to go down and see it. I've been down before. It's a great tournament. We'll talk about the course, but the bear trap, I mean, we have to open with that because it's holes 15, 16 and 17. Plays as the 4th toughest 3-hole stretch on the PGA Tour. And the water is the biggest factor. We have water on 15 of the 18 holes, and the bear trap being a par 3, a par 4, a par 3, right before you hit the par 5 of the 18th. But what makes it so terrifying?
Well, as you do walk onto the 15th hole at the bear trap, there is a big bronze bear representing entering the bear trap with Jack Nicklaus' signature on it. But they're just intimidating holes. They're just long enough to where you have to hit a really solid sort of 7 or an 8 irons, maybe 6, 7, 8 on the 15th hole. There's a bailout to the left, but that's not very good either. And you sort of, when you get on the 15th hole, there's water all the way down the front of the green and wraps around the right-hand side. The smart shot, Diane, is to try to get the ball, obviously 30 feet left of the flag, and put it right there, no matter what your score is or what day it is or what the weather is. But when you get on there, you're bringing in luggage from the rest of the course. You've already dealt with, as you said, shots that are going across water. So you got your swing, either where you want it or you don't, and you finish up putting it in places. Left bunker's not very good. Short's not great. It's okay. But of course, we see so many balls in the water. 16th hole really shouldn't hit it in the water. It's a par 4. You sort of have to lay up off the tee, and you don't really go into the water on 16. Then, of course, 17 is another par 3. Big stand, nothing like the Phoenix Open, but it's big enough, and it feels like you're hitting to an island green. It's very narrow and thin green, and they put the pin right in the front. Again, the big thing about these bear trap holes is if you bail out a little bit, Diane, it's almost as bad because the bunkers are nasty and deep and the sand's fluffy, and it's hard to do anything on those holes.
Yeah, well, I read they've actually changed it up a little bit. Some of the bunkers have been removed or reduced on 13, 16, 17 and 18. So they've been playing around with the bunkering on the course. But yeah, I mean, the bear trap is going to be terrifying for all. And then 18 being the par 5, it's a great finishing hole because whatever you've done over the last 3 holes, then it's all to play for in 18. And remember last year when Sepp Straka won and he beat Shane Lowry by 1 shot, and the weather was horrendous and it was pouring rain and they were under the umbrellas and the wind was coming in, and Sepp Straka got his first win on tour. He's going to be back to try and defend this week, but it's a great course. It's a tough course. Let's talk about what the guys are going to have to do well, and I guess the main stats that we're going to be looking at this week for our picks.
When I think about the PGA National course and I think about all the great past champions on this course, Diane, I start to think, well, who's really suited for this style of golf? And I look at the name you just mentioned, Shane Lowry, who is the Open champion. He's used to playing in the wind. He's used to hitting it in the fairway. Some very difficult holes, number 2, number 6, number 10, number 11, 14. And that's before you even get to the bear trap. These holes, one in particular, hole number 6, has a long par 4, 470 or 80 yards, water all the way down the left side. The thing about this course, and the reason it sort of produces champions that hit the ball really well, you can't play the course if you're in the rough. If you're in the rough off the tee, then you can't get into the green over the water and make it stop. So you have to lay up, and then you score balloons. I mean, a hole that we see guys really, really mess up is hole number 11. It's a par 4. If you don't hit it in the fairway, the green is wrapped around a lake. You can't get over there. You can't do anything. You get finished in the back bunker and you make all these mistakes. And as you see a player work his way around the course, Straka, of course, you mentioned one last year. There's been a ton of just tremendous past champions list I was looking at last night, including Nicklaus and Ryder Cups and Seve Ballesteros hitting a 3-wood out on the 18th hole. I remember that shot. There's some classic stuff happens here. But you've got to get into play, and then you've got to, it's much like playing the Players' Championship. You've got to get your ball in play so you can go across and handle all these difficult second shots into the par 4s.
And longer second shots as well. I was looking at the stats, and it's you have to be a good mid to long iron player to do well around.
Well, you see, because of what you just said is true, you give up the driver off the tee, Diane, to get it in the fairway, so you finish up being back a little bit, which is fine. Yeah. Lowry does play a certain style of golf that I really like, and that is he's fairway first, plays that little low fade and gets it in play, and then works his way from there. This is a different game than what we've talked about on this course than we have in weeks previous, where even last week at Riviera, we saw John Rahm and Honma always sort of just out of the fairway in the little light stuff. That's no good this week because the approach shots are coming in across water hazards.
And I saw that Sepp Straka hit 23% more fairways than the field average last year, which, is the reason why he went on to win.
23 more chances to get it dry, right?
Yeah, right, there you go. What about the greens? We talk about the Bermuda Grass and that we're off those bumpy POA greens now. What do the guys face this week, and why is it so appealing to so many of them to be moving over to the East Coast to have this grass?
Because it's predictable. We know where the west is, and we know the grass is going that way, so we know it's fast this way and slow this way, and it's not like this out in Riviera, Poana, and Pebble Beach, and San Diego. So we know when we get there that there's a certain, the style of grass, Bermuda grass, Diane, is a little thicker blade, grows up with the nourishment of the sun, and then it folds over and lays into the west part of the setting sun. So we can predict that. So we know that that's there, and then of course slope is more prevalent than grain, but when you're a good grain reader and the slope is like this and the grain's this way, it won't break as much. So there's a little trick to putting on Bermuda grass. You got to know it a little bit, and you have to maybe grow up on it, or you have to learn very quickly.
Okay. Well, you're a good person to learn from, bearing in mind your success in Florida.
Florida was better for me. I told you, I always liked it when that plane was saying, next stop, Miami.
Okay, right. Well, so we've got our picks this week. I have no idea. Normally we have a little bit of a confab beforehand and we have a fair idea who the other one is picking. I really have no idea who you're going with this week. And as I said, we don't have the PGA Tour's creme de la creme players in the field, which really does leave it wide open. I mean, Sepp Straka, was he 100-1 last year when he won? Keith Mitchell, I was hoping Keith Mitchell was going to play this week. I know he would have been one of the tournament favourites after winning in 2019. He was 300-1 when he won. So we can.
Straka's got to be a look this week. He has to be a look this week. He's only played 2 times in the last 6 weeks, waiting maybe for this opportunity to come back to where he defended last year. Comfortable on this golf course. I looked at Shane Lowry. He's not my pick this week. And then I looked at Thomas Dietrich, a young player, a rookie, as you've told me, from Belgium. I didn't know his nationality, sort of his first full year on the tour, 18th currently on the FedEx. He's kind of one of the young guns, I guess you would say, that I'm looking at a little bit. But Diane, my pick this, I'm not going to get fooled like I did. I fooled myself last week and didn't take Jon Rahm. I went for the shiny object in the room of Tom Kim. I'm going for the guy who really is the favourite, who's the best player in the field by a mile, and that's Sungjae Im. And he plays good on this golf course. And why would he? Is because, remember last year when we did our top 30 money winner event in Atlanta, the best striker of the ball in 3 categories on the PGA Tour. It was Sungjae Im with driving, greens in reg, and chipping. We said that was a criteria of who actually hit the ball the best for the season. And he won that award in my mind. I'm giving it to him. I gave it to him then, and I'm doing it again. But Sungjae Im, he's not affected, Diane, by playing a lot of golf. We know he plays every week, so he's not one of these guys that needs a break. And obviously, he loves this tournament and loves it. He's won it, always right up there, and he hits the ball great. And I think that's going to separate him as the week goes along.
Missed the cut last year, just saying. But he did win.
You've got to miss a cut every once in a while. Check my notes. Let me check my notes. He
just finished 4th in San Diego and then 6th at the WM Phoenix Open. But yeah, as you say, won here in 2020, finished 8th in 2021. Last year was an anomaly for him. He's a great pick, obviously. He is plus 850. So as you say, he's 100% the tournament favourite this week. So I did not know if you were going to pick Shane Lowry or Sungjae Im, but I knew it was going to be one of them.
Well, I was leaving Larry for you because I know you wore your green dress today, and I knew as soon as you put it on, you were going to pick Lowry today.
Here we go. I wrote out everything for Shane Lowry and was like, I'm going to pick him. And one of the main reasons, I'm not picking him, by the way, I'm going to go with someone else. But one of the big things for Lowry, and maybe this is going to be like the thing that shoots me in the foot not picking him, he played the 2 elevated events, so in Phoenix and then last week. And so that's 2 in a row. You can't tell me he's not going to play Bay Hill. And then the players. So are we going to do a 5-week stretch? Good and bad, because he's obviously playing this week because he wants to win after finishing runner-up last year and clearly really fancies his chances around this course. So that's a huge tick for Shane Lowry, who is, let me just find his odds, because I saw he was a little bit further down our re-ranking, but he's
14-1 I got him at, yeah.
But I am going to go, this is a good story, I'm going with Matt Kuchar as my outright favourite this week at 28-1. Now, the last 7 winners of the Honda Classic have finished within the top 16 in the weeks prior, and we saw Matt Kuchar just play great at the Genesis and finish 8th, and he finished 7th at the Sony Open at Waialae. Sony Open at Waialae, and that course actually correlates pretty well with PGA National. Kuch has won this tournament before, back in 2002, and he hasn't played it since 2011. So he can't really go too much on course history, although when you go back to a tournament that you've previously won, it's obviously huge. But he's from Florida. He's going to be so happy to be back on Bermuda, and he's playing really well. He's one of these consistent, reliable guys, but his game is just up there right now. So I'm going to go with him after seeing such great performance last week at 28-1. I thought I'm going to take a higher odds outright favourite, and Matt Kuchar is the man.
Well, I can't blame you, because experience on this course is important. I mean, I looked at this sheet and I saw these rookies on here that have not played this golf course. It's going to be pretty difficult for them. They do have a great chance this week, as you've noted, because the field is not stacked with 30 of the top players on the tour. So big opening to get into the cut, make some money, move up in the FedEx Cup standings. I think though I would have went with the green fella. I think I might have went with the wee green grass. And if that turns out to be wrong, you're going to be really upset at yourself.
Yes, especially because I'm not having a great time with my picks right now, so I will be very annoyed at myself. But
well, you've been preoccupied. You've had a baby.
I know, and maybe I think the pregnancy gave me magic picking powers, and now he's out. It's just not happening. But I'd rather have the baby. So you've got Sung JM at 8.5 to 1, and I'm going with Matt Kuchar at 28 to 1.
And I wanted to, for the record, on video, I wanted to say that we did discuss Sepp Straka, both of us. We did discuss Shane Lowry, and we did discuss Thomas Dietrich.
Yes,
because on our sheet this week, we sort of squashed together the ball strike into one sort of area, which we took driving accuracy, driving distance, 25-25, and then greens and reg, 50%, put that together and see how that shakes out. Yeah. I'm not going all in on that category this week. I'm going all in on more experience, like you picked Kuchar, but my ones to watch, I'm having a little flashback here on my ones to watch this week.
We also looked at scrambling this week as a big stat, and Matt Kuchar is first on the PGA Tour this season in scrambling, so that was just another check mark for me. Okay, right, moving on to our ones to watch. Guys with slightly higher odds. I'm going to go first because you just said that, the ball striking stat is going to be important. It's not the be all and end all, but I'm picking my guy predominantly based on that because he's 6th in this ball striking category on the PGA Tour this season. He's 65 to 1. Hopefully this is not who you're going with, but Hayden Buckley is going to be my pick. Oh, you froze.
You were going to do that. Did I?
Oh, you just froze there, and I thought, is he just pausing for effect? No,
I knew you were going to pick Hayden Buckley because I saw it, and I looked at it, and I saw the stats, and I'm like, yep, she's going to do it.
Right, well, looking at the stats is one thing, and I'll get onto that, but he's been playing really well too. And this Sony Open Waialae thing, when I was digging deep, there's just... a lot of guys have played well in that tournament and then gone on to play well at the Honda, and Keith Mitchell was a pure example of that. But Hayden Buckley finished runner-up at the Sony Open just at the start of the year, and he has 2 top 5 finishes this season. So he's playing good golf. As I said, he's 6th in that ball striking category. He is 5th off the tee right now on the PGA Tour and 7th in total driving, so distance and accuracy. So those are all brilliant stats for him. First time playing this tournament, which is the one thing that's... Oh no, sorry. He has played it before, but hasn't had any success. He missed the cut last year. So we need to... But it's a different guy. I think he's a different player now, and he's obviously got a lot more confidence and probably feels like he has earned his place out there. So Hayden Buckley, 65 to 1. He's going to be my one to watch.
Well, you have to remember Max missed 11 cuts in a row, and he's not the same golfer now as he was before either. Saying all that, I was speaking to Ryan Palmer on the phone this week, and he couldn't wait to get to this tournament. It's one of his favorite events on the whole PGA Tour, the Honda. Why is that? Well, it's windy. He's got Bermuda grass. He knows how to play it. He's been there 9 times. I'm not picking him, by the way. I'm picking someone just like him. 8 times out of the 9, he's made the cut. He's finished 2nd, 4th, 19th, a bunch of 25ths. It's one thing when they say, oh, I can't wait to get to Pebble, or I can't wait to get to Riviera. It's another thing, Diane, to say, I can't wait to get to the PGA National, because that's a really difficult course. And not many people are happy. They're happy to get off that course each day. But I'm picking a friend of mine that happens to live in Houston, who loves playing in the heat, expert on Bermuda grass, played here 8 times, finished in the money in 7, 4th, 15th, and a bunch of times in the 25s. Diane, of course, about Johnny Vegas. long hitter from Venezuela, hits it straight. And when he gets going, Johnny that is, and he's healthy, he is lights out. He loves this course, loves this tournament, even loves it just as much as Ryan Palmer. So I'm sticking with the guys that have great track records, and Vegas played last week, played decent, and I'm riding him.
Okay, I actually, when I was doing my research, he came up a lot when it came to this course. What odds did you say he was?
I got him at 45.
45 to 1?
Yep.
Okay, all righty. So,
and Ryan Palmer was 60.
Yeah, I love the Ryan Palmer story because it's like we're just pulling out names. We're not actually picking them, but we kind of are picking them at the same time. So if he does go on to win, I think Ryan was in a playoff here the same year my brother was in a playoff with Rory, and was it Russell Henley too? I think it was the four of them. So yeah, likes this course. We're gonna do our dark horse picks. These guys are over 100 to 1. I have got my guy at 150 to 1, but I have another name that I want to throw out before either of us give our picks, and he's obviously a friend of the show, and you and him have a very close relationship. But Jason Duffner is 300 to 1 this week, and Duffner has really good history at this place, so he has to be one of those guys that says, I can't wait to get back to PGA National, especially after the confidence of finishing 30th in Phoenix a couple of weeks ago.
Hadn't made a cut in 10 weeks, played with Rory McIlroy on Sunday at Phoenix, been working on his swing with Scott Hamilton on the 3D stuff, getting back in shape. He hasn't had any history that we can poke at and say, hey, he's going to do well, but he does well here, Diane. Is it time for him to sort of turn this around a little bit? We know he doesn't putt that great, and he says he doesn't, but he's so confident today of what he's working on and how his body's feeling. He'll play good again this week. I guarantee you he's going to be in the money this week.
Well, he's had 5 top 15 finishes here. I know we're talking about a long space of time, but when I was looking at the yardages, one of the approach stats, and we were talking about it earlier because of the accuracy and all the trouble, that 125 to 150 yard range, and that's his best stat by far. So again, I think he's sitting in the top 10 of that stat category right now, which is going to be important this week. So for Duffner, maybe, and he's talked to us about the fact that it's a confidence thing and he needs that spark, that boost of confidence, and maybe he got that in Phoenix a couple of weeks ago.
We talked on the phone all the time, and he said when he played with Rory at Phoenix Open, he said he couldn't believe the weapon that Rory's driver is. He hits it so far. But he said I hit 3 5-iron inside of Rory's 9-irons. He said he was 80 yards ahead of me off the tee and hit 3 9-irons to par 5s, and I hit 5-irons inside of him. So he said Rory needs to clean up his short game, but he said I'm hitting my 5-iron great. So there's going to be plenty of 5-irons for him over there this week, Diane. So yes, we're looking a little bit at him. We pull for some of these players so hard, but he's not my pick and he's not yours, but he's kind of a guy we're watching out for.
Yeah, always. They're always pulling for him. Right, you go first then. Who's your dark horse this week?
Well, I was looking at the Ryder Cup captain, Zach Johnson, who also plays good. He's played here 8 times and he's made the cut 5. He's having a pretty good, he won money 3 times out on the West Coast. I still don't think of it as points, FedEx points. I think of it as making money, Diane, because that's what we did when we went out west, tried to make money. He's 130 to 1, but there's a name that almost rhymes with Duffner that I'm going to pick. Doesn't rhyme with it, but MJ Duffy is about time for this young fella. He's one of the best scorers I've ever seen. He qualified for the tour like 4 spots in a row 2 years ago, and this is his first real full season on tour. Played in the US Open, was leading the US Open up at Brookline through about 35 holes, Diane. MJ, he'll do great because I've seen him play and I know what he can do from tee to green, and I think this course is going to suit his game. I got him at 130 to 1.
130 to 1. Okay, cool. Right, well, my guy I found at 150 to 1, and it's somebody who is a phenomenal putter. Year after year, he's one of the best putters on the PGA Tour. He just hasn't really had anything going for a while until lately, but I'm looking at Peter Malnati. So current form is a huge factor. We're going to throw course history out the window. He's played here a lot, but he hasn't really done anything or had any sort of success. So I'm like, well, whatever. This is the year it's going to turn around. Again, he's a different player. But he's been playing great golf, 3 top 20 finishes in his last 4 starts. And one of those was that 4th place finish at Pebble Beach. Talk about his putting. He's always up there in putting stats. He's 8th in putting average this season. And then I really was diving into his approach and his greens and reg. He's 10th in consecutive greens and reg this week. So we know that, accuracy and that approach is going to be key to scoring this week. So I like that for Peter Malnati. But yeah, again, confidence. Had a baby not long ago. I think it would have been just after Grayson was born. But
hey, also unknown stat on him is leads the tour in most inches on the brim of his hat. So that's another stat for Malnati, right?
Always wear him and Joel Damon always have the great headwear on. But I am, the baby thing, the marriage thing, everyone laughs at me for it, but it's just giving them, I guess, a different perspective. And he said himself that he's just happy and playing great golf right now. So Peter Malnati at 150 to 1. He's my pick for this week.
Well, that's a good pick, Diane. Look at John Rahm yesterday when he was holding his son on top of his shoulders and said that he said he's just so happy that his son is so happy and having fun. It makes him a lot more happy, and meaning that he is very calm, very relaxed. And that handed him the trophy on Sunday is the only guy that can relate to that much confidence, that much dominance.
And Max Homa as well. I mean, look at him, just had a baby in November too, or October, November. So, and those are the 2 names on everyone's lips right now. So there we go. This is all part of the model. They're going to need confidence. They're going to need happiness, calmness, good vibes when they enter the bear trap this week at PGA National. What's the weather going to do? Have you had a good look at the weather forecast?
I think it's typical Florida weather. Low 80s with a moderate breeze. The wind is going to be nasty on the bear trap. It's going to be into out of the left, which is the nastiest wind of all because it makes you have to start the ball away and bring it back to where the water is. So not ideal, but really what you need when you get to the bear trap is a center hit in the middle of the club face, that is, to make that ball go straight.
Is the wind direction going to change throughout the week?
Not much for the week. It's pretty similar so far. But, the thing is, the weather forecast, man, he'll tell you it's going to be 10 miles an hour. But when you get out to the golf course, it's blowing 25 because it's exposed and it's on the edge of the water and all that. So there's always wind down there, Diane, and just a little bit of wind changes those positions off the tee. Instead of being here, I've got to now hit it here. I don't really want to go there because there's trees and water. I got to hit it there and move it. So look, all these tour players, they're well equipped to play this style of golf. This course asks you to knock it down the middle, no matter what club it is. If you want to be in contention or you want to make the cut this week at PGA National, please play your ball from the fairway.
Yeah. Okay. Can you please tell my brother that? Because I really want to go and have a nice weekend down with his family.
He's the straightest hitter I've ever seen. I don't know how he wouldn't. Yeah. By the way, when you put Grayson out there, you're going to get first golf tournament of 2 million. Or one. What's going to be the bottom number?
I don't know. But I hope he gets to go. Well, if not, his first tournament will be at the Players a few weeks later. And we're obviously excited about the Players because we love talking to you about your 2 wins at TBC Sawgrass, and we've got all that to come, which is always a huge week for us and always great fun to catch up with the guys. And next week it's Bay Hill, which is another one of these big events, elevated events on the tour, and it's always, Arnold Palmer's legacy, and we get to dive into that and all the joy of playing another difficult course here in Florida.
these $20 million events are going to add a little magic dust to those fields, Diane. They're all coming down for the 20 mil. Step right up.
Step right up, indeed. Right, and don't forget, our games are going to be open on the SG Tour Golf Gaming app this week, so you can head in there. We have our 4 tiers of players. You're picking a guy from each tier. And as we said, because you don't have a huge amount of the big names that are playing, the door is open for so many of them. And we've given you a lot of factors to take into consideration. You can check out our sheet and see who you're going to pick and go up against us and see how you fare.
Yeah, and I would say go into the media and look at the stats, because it gets a little dodgy when you start to pick a C and a D and trying to make a real, a good solid pick. We've got it here for you, though. We're ready for you.
You've got everything you need. Right, thank you so much for watching and for listening to the Tour Report. We'll be back next week to talk about Bay Hill.
The SG Tour Golf Gaming app, the place for you to compete and win cash on PGA Tour events. The SG Tour is a golf experience like no other, with games designed by golf professionals. You can play single-day games and tournament-long contests each week. It's easy to get involved. Join or create a game for you and your buddies. Pick 4 players and follow along with the action. And if you need some help with your picks, we've got you covered with our weekly handicapping show, The Tour Report, and exclusive content with our PGA Tour players. Join the fun and win money on the SG Tour, available in the App Store.